The investigation will seek to understand the systemic issues behind why so many women, babies and families experience unacceptable care. The Chair is working with families to finalise the terms of reference for the investigation, and these will be published shortly.
Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree that listening to the voices of bereaved families who've lost their babies is of essential importance? And if he does, will he listen to the calls of Sussex families to appoint Donna Ockenden to lead their review?
I thank her for that question. I agree that these voices are absolutely vital. It's not going to be possible to really get to the bottom of why care is not at an acceptable standard without hearing those voices. I've heard what she said about Donna Ockenden, and I will certainly take that away and discuss that with ministerial colleagues.
Chair of the Select Committee, Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Trauma during childbirth can have lifelong and debilitating impacts. Failing maternity services are felt by all, but especially families from low-income and ethnic minority backgrounds. In my constituency, where too many already experience health inequalities, the Luton and Dunstable Hospital's maternity unit has recently been downgraded to inadequate by the CQC. Does the Minister agree with me that mothers and babies deserve better? And what cross-departmental work is taking place to ensure NHS trusts across the country improve maternity care?
Minister.
I thank her for that question, and she is campaigning strongly for her constituents on this issue. We are establishing the Maternity and Neonatal National Task Force, which will develop a national plan to drive improvements across maternity and neonatal care. That will be chaired by my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, and it will be made up of a panel of experts and family, charity and staff representatives. I also was pleased to learn that my honourable friend met with Baroness Merron in June to discuss maternity care in Luton North.
Testament.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Post-maternity, many women suffer female pelvic prolapse, and the matter of surgical mesh implants is one on which I'm unable to get any answers. I wondered if the Minister would please work with his counterparts at the Department for Health and Social Care to get a realistic update on exactly what's happened as a result of the Hughes report, and to give me the information about meetings between the DHSC and indeed the Patient Safety Commissioner on progress on those recommendations.
Minister.
I thank her for that question. Absolutely, I will raise this with colleagues in the department, and we will write to her urgently with the answers that she's looking for.
Shadow Secretary of State, Mims Davis.
Once again, this Labour government has failed women and girls in their inaction and blinkered mindset to the safety in their communities, and their slow action on Theo Clark and the member for Canterbury's 2024 Birth Trauma Inquiry Report, recommending national maternity strategy that we committed to. Over a year on, a so-called rapid inquiry announced in June only has a chair with no experience in maternity services and an expectation to fix this national scandal by the end of the year. This is asking too much of one woman to support many women across the country. How is this Health Minister going to address ongoing and widespread concerns heard again in the Chamber, react to the existing evidence and stop the belief that many women are being failed by this Labour government?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I really do find it a bit rich that the party opposite stands there and tries to give us lectures after the 14 years of neglect and incompetence that was the trademark of their time in government. Baroness Amos is chairing the Independent Maternity and Neonatal Investigation. This will be a rapid investigation with two core roles: conducting urgent reviews by the end of this year of up to 10 trusts where there are specific issues, systemic investigation into maternity and neonatal care in England to create one set of national actions to drive the improvements needed to ensure high-quality care and that women are listened to. That is responsible government. That is trying to fix the mess they made after 14 years, and I think the party opposite would do well to actually support us in that.
Jim Shannon.
Question number 5, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, we want young people with disabilities and health impairments to secure good employment as soon as possible and to fulfil their aspirations. The Pathways to Work Green Paper proposed a youth phase in health and disability benefits, and we're currently reviewing the consultation responses.
Jim Shannon.
Can I thank the Minister for that response? Research by the National Disability Charity Sense has found that over half of disabled benefit claimants with complex needs between the ages of 18 and 34 say there are few jobs that met their needs as disabled people. What steps can the Minister take to ensure that there are more employment opportunities available to young disabled people with complex needs? Thank you.
Minister.
The honourable gentleman raises a very important point. There are excellent examples of job carving for people with complex needs, and we need more of that, I think. We're looking forward to the report to be submitted soon by Sir Charlie Mayfield on what more employers can do to open up opportunities for people out of work on disabilities grounds, and he'll have some very interesting proposals, I think.
Deirdre Costigan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The last Conservative government left so many young disabled people in Ealing Southall who wanted to work consigned to a lifetime on benefits. But at West Ealing Job Centre, we are already seeing a difference being made with £1.3 billion of funding for employment support from this Labour government. Does the Minister agree that the Mayfield Review offers a once-in-a-lifetime chance to transform the workplace to make it more accessible for disabled people?
Yes, I do agree with my honourable friend, and she's absolutely right. Disengaging from work and learning in early adulthood can do lasting harm to career prospects and to well-being. We're launching the Youth Guarantee so that all 18 to 21-year-olds in England, including disabled young people, can access quality training opportunities, an apprenticeship or help to find work. And I'm glad to hear things are developing so well in her constituency.
We come to topicals. Samantha Nimble.
Topical question number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Sarah Stay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government is focused on breaking down barriers to opportunity for everyone. We're backing working families, saving them £7,500 through rolling out 30 hours of government-funded childcare and rolling out free breakfast clubs in our schools. Building on the proud legacy of Sure Start, we will deliver 100 Best Start family hubs to give every child the best start in life. And we're opening 10 new construction technical excellence colleges, backing our young people to learn a trade and to get on. Our plan for change will deliver for everyone.
Samantha Didley.
I thank the Secretary of State for her response, and I'm sure she will have seen research last week that parents in my constituency of South Derbyshire will be really disappointed in that mums earn £302 less per week than dads. For too long, the Tories were happy for these costs to fall on women. So what steps is she taking to ensure that this Labour government tackles the motherhood penalty?
I totally agree with my honourable friend that it is totally unacceptable, and this Labour government will deliver for women. Unlike the party opposite, whose leader said that maternity pay was excessive, a reform leader who claimed it was a fact of life that women coming back from maternity leave would earn less. We know the difference that high-quality early years education makes, and that's why I'm delighted that from this week, working families will be able to access 30 hours of government-funded childcare.
Secretary of State Mims Davies.
Writer and comedian Graham Linehan was apparently arrested by 5 police officers at Heathrow, then questioned about 3 tweets which he says were based on his gender-critical views, a belief protected by the Equality Act. Despite this government's claim to protect free speech, Mr Linehan has been banned from using the platform as part of his bail conditions. Can the Secretary of State confirm if it is now a crime in Britain to tell potentially offensive jokes and perhaps face armed arrest?
Mr Speaker, the Right Honourable Lady will know well that I cannot comment on live police investigations as the police operate independently of government. But the Home Secretary has been clear that her priority and the priority of this government is that the police focus on tackling antisocial behaviour and making sure that people can walk our streets free from fear.
Yuan Yang.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the Minister join me in congratulating Reading's University Medical Group, a GP practice in my constituency which was recently awarded the Gold Pride in Practice Award by the LGBT Foundation? When I visited the practice last week, the doctors raised the issue of transgender care. Many constituents have also written to me concerned about ongoing barriers to treatment for young people needing gender-affirming care. So what more can the government do to ensure that young transgender people get the treatment they urgently need?
Mr Speaker, I'm grateful to my honourable friend for raising that work in her community. The Government has commissioned NHS England to undertake an LGBT health evidence review that is being led by Dr Michael Brady, the National Advisor on LGBT health, and it will diagnose the problems we need to solve, making sure that we have evidence-led recommendations in order to improve better access to healthcare for adults.
Ian Solomon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A constituent with muscular dystrophy reports facing an 8 to 12-month wait for AGM healthcare to deliver a new wheelchair, far beyond the 18-month target. So what steps will the Minister take with her health colleagues to address that really poor performance by AGM healthcare nationwide, and particularly the equalities implications of that?
Mr Speaker, if the honourable gentleman would provide me with some more details of his constituent's case, I'd be happy to make sure that's looked into by ministers and he receives a full response.
Dr Rubahart.
Mr Speaker, a constituent and mum's got in touch because she's lost her entitlement to the 30 hours of childcare this government so brilliantly rolled out, and the student finance version because she's doing law as a mature student. Can the Minister look into closing this loophole so that women who retrain mid-career aren't penalised?
Secretary of State.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. We recognise the value of parents continuing in education, and that's why there are often available mechanisms such as the Childcare grant and the Parents' Learning Allowance. As I don't know the full circumstances of her constituent's case, I'd be grateful if she could write to me and I could make sure that we give her full advice on the childcare support that she might be available to her.
Sir Desmond Swade.
She's chosen to champion the rights of the residents of the Bell Hotel over those of the local community.
Mr Speaker, that is just plain wrong.
Correct whistle.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Parental leave is just as essential for families who adopt as those with biological children, giving vital time for bonding. However, many adopted families cannot access the same paid leave. What steps is the Minister taking to ensure equal parental leave for adopted parents?
Mr Speaker, that is an important area that my honourable friend raises. We know that preparing for and adopting a child is an important time in the life of families. That's why we've committed to reviewing the parental leave system to ensure that it best supports working families, including where that comes to adoption as well. And I'd be happy to discuss that further or make sure a minister discusses it further with my honourable friend.
Kirsty Blackman.
Has the government done an equality assessment on how cancelling family reunion differentially impacts those from ethnic minority backgrounds?
Mr Speaker, the Home Secretary has set out our approach and the action that we will be taking in this area, and I will make sure that the Honourable Lady receives a response from the Home Office on the matter that she raises.
Kim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Shelters My Colour Speaks Before Me report highlights systemic discrimination and access to housing, from disproportionate scrutiny of applicants to barriers in both social and private rented housing. How is the government ensuring that tackling structural racism is at the heart of housing reform and this government's policies?
Mr Speaker, we are determined to ensure that we have high-quality housing that is available, both social housing for rent and also that people have the opportunity to buy their own home. And of course, there is no place for racism within our housing system. If my honourable friend would share with me the details of the report she mentions, I'd make sure I can look into that further on her behalf.
We now come to questions to the Prime Minister. Dawn Butler.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, on Sunday we won the contract for the biggest defence deal that Norway has ever placed. Mr Speaker, that's a £10 billion investment securing 15 years of shipbuilding in Scotland and across the rest of the United Kingdom. Mr Speaker, one day later on Monday we launched 30 hours of free childcare for working families. Not only does this save working parents £7,500 per year, it will transform the life chances of our children, because every child will start reception with an equal opportunity to achieve their potential. That is a Labour government in action, delivering for working people. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Economically deprived high streets, poorer high streets, are flooded with gambling shops. The aim to permit legislation prevents councils from saying no. My summer campaign on gambling reform has received loads of support, including Gordon Brown, who says if we tax the gambling industry, we'll get £3 billion for our economy. Will the Prime Minister join campaigners and help me to end aim to permit so constituents like yours and mine can thrive?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank her for her question? It is important that local authorities are given additional tools and powers to ensure vibrant high streets. We are looking, Mr. Speaker, at introducing cumulative impact assessments. These are like those already in place for alcohol licensing. We will give councils stronger powers over the location and numbers of gambling outlets to help create safe, thriving high streets.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the whole House will want to send our condolences to the family of our former colleague, David Warburton. I also welcome the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister has referred herself to the ethics advisor. She has admitted she underpaid tax. So why is she still in office? But there is not just a crisis at the very top of his cabinet, Mr. Speaker. There is a crisis brewing for the whole country. When was the last time the cost of government borrowing was so high?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I join her in her comments about Mr. Warburton? I think the whole House would unite on an issue such as that. In relation to the Deputy Prime Minister, she has explained her personal circumstances in detail. She's gone over and above in setting out the details, including, Mr. Speaker, yesterday afternoon, asking a court to lift a confidentiality order in relation to her own son. I know from speaking at length with the Deputy Prime Minister just how difficult that decision was for her and her family. But she did it to ensure that all information is in the public domain. She has now referred herself to the independent adviser. That is the right thing to do. But I can be clear, I am very proud to sit alongside a Deputy Prime Minister who is building 1.5 million homes, who is bringing the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and who's come from a working class background to be Deputy Prime Minister of this country. Mr. Speaker, on the question of borrowing costs, they have risen across the world, as the Leader of the Opposition well knows. We are driving them down by getting debt down. That is hardwired into our fiscal rules. Those fiscal rules are non-negotiable. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to take lectures on the economy from the party opposite, who crashed the economy, mortgages went through the roof, and a record fall in living standards.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure we would have heard all that sympathy if it was the Conservative Deputy Prime Minister who was being attacked. I remember when the Prime Minister said that tax evasion is a criminal offence and should be treated as all other fraud. If he had a backbone, he would sack her. But let's get back to the issue of borrowing. He did not answer why it is so high. Conservatives left him the fastest growing economy in the G7. Under him, the cost of our borrowing is now higher than in Greece. Why does the Prime Minister think this is?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if it had been the party opposite, there wouldn't have been the accountability that there now is in place, because they spent years and years avoiding it. And she makes her claims about the economy under their watch are about as credible as her place at Stanford University, frankly. But, Mr. Speaker, she leaves out of account because she wants to talk down the country. We've got the highest growth in the G7. Those figures, I look forward to her getting up and welcoming that. 5 interest rate cuts in a row. And, of course, Mr. Speaker, £120 billion of investment in the first year of a Labour government. That is a record.
It's a terrible record, Mr. Speaker. I stand by every single thing that I have said. He cannot say why borrowing is higher under him. I will tell him why it is higher. It is because the Chancellor changed the fiscal rules so she could borrow record amounts. She maxed out the country's credit card, and that has pushed up borrowing costs. These are their bad choices, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, former members of the Monetary Policy Committee are warning and I quote, that we are heading for an economic crash. Why does he think that he is right and they are wrong?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she can't resist. She comes straight back to talk the country down at every opportunity. She doesn't welcome the highest growth in the G7. She could have got up and welcomed that, Mr. Speaker, but no. What about the 380,000 jobs we've created? She can welcome that, but no. What about the 3 trade deals we've got? Not only does she not welcome them, she opposes them. And of course she hasn't welcomed the Norway deal, the biggest deal for shipbuilding in a very, very long time. She should stop talking down the country and get behind the renewal this government is delivering.
Mr. Speaker, he is dragging down the country. He is dragging it down. How can he stand there and say that he is creating jobs? Unemployment has gone up every single month under this Labour government. And if he doesn't know why borrowing costs are going up, another reason is that the markets can see that he is too weak to control spending. Now, we are reading that he wants to have another go at welfare costing. What makes him think that they will vote for it this time?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we picked. I think I saw that the leader of the opposition said, I think at the weekend to the Sunday Times, that I think she said this: "I've inherited a gigantic mess and I'm cleaning it up." She said it's very difficult. It's going to take a while. I know exactly how she feels.
Mr. Speaker, we're not the ones referring ourselves to ethics advisors. The fact is, he is floundering. Mr. Speaker, he is floundering. Perhaps he should have a read of the covers of the...
Shh. Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps he should have a read of the covers...
Order. We don't want to start the session with somebody leaving, do we? If somebody wants to volunteer, please do so. If not, I will choose one.
They can do the fake chairs as much as they like. The whole country knows what a mess of the economy they are making. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that taxes are going up for everyone, except perhaps the Deputy Prime Minister. I warned before the summer that we would face weeks of speculation about which taxes would be going up. The former head of the IFS says this sort of uncertainty is actively damaging to the economy. And now we find that we have to wait until the 26th of November for a budget. Does he really think the country or the markets can wait that long?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she said they're not referring themselves to the ethics advisors. That's amongst the reasons they got booted out of office last year. And she complains that we're going through the due process for a budget and going through the necessary steps. We tried a budget under their watch without going through those steps. What happened? They blew up the economy. We'll take no lessons from them.
This is desperate stuff from the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. This week, he had another reset. This morning, the Prime Minister scrapped his 5 missions, and after scrapping his 3 foundations, scrapping his 6 first steps for change and his 7 pillars for growth, the truth is this man has got no clue, 0 clue. But this is serious, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's incompetence is hurting real people. They're losing their jobs. The cost of everything is going up, from energy bills to the weekly shop. This is a crisis made in Downing Street. Isn't the truth that he is too weak to change course and too arrogant to admit he got things wrong?
I don't know what social media site she's been on this morning, Mr. Speaker, but I think the chair of the Tory party said that we were the firefighters, this government. Well, in a sense we are, because we're putting out the fires that they created. They were the arsonists, the biggest fall in living standards on record and blowing up the finances. We've spent the first year putting out their fires, quite right too. But now, Mr. Speaker, we're delivering on the cost of living. Funded childcare, £7,500 for working families. Free breakfast clubs, opening new schools-based nurseries. That's what we're fighting for, the best start for every child in this country.
Paulette Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Mayor of the West Midlands, Richard Parker, is delivering growth and jobs by backing SMEs like Bogue Toys in my constituency of Birmingham Erdington, which has just doubled in size. Will the Prime Minister join me in praising this success and confirm that boosting ambitious small and medium-sized businesses across the UK remains a key priority of his government? Thank you.
Prime Minister. Well, can I recognise and congratulate the businesses in her constituencies? Mr Speaker, we published our small business plan, which was very well received, includes new rules cracking down on late payments, much long been asked for, £3 billion boost to more business loans and fairer business rate systems to support small businesses. That's why it was so warmly received. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Sir Ed David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On behalf of these benches, can I join the Leader of the Opposition in sending our condolences to the family of David Warburton? And I'm sure the whole House will join me in paying tribute to Annette Brooke, who served in this House for 14 years and sadly passed away last month. Annette dedicated her life to public service and serving the people of Dorset, and she is greatly missed. Mr Speaker, we have all seen the horrifying images from Gaza. The baby is so thin from starvation you can see their skeletons. The bodies of children killed while queuing for water. The emaciated hostages still held captive by Hamas. The Prime Minister has rightly said he wants to stop all that. So when the one man in the world who has the power to stop that comes here to our country on a state visit, will the Prime Minister look President Trump in the eye and urge him to use the influence on Netanyahu and Qatar to make it stop?
Prime Minister. Can I join him on his comments about Annette Brooke? And also in his description about the horrifying situation in Gaza, and it is horrifying. We're looking at a man-made famine on top of everything else. And that is why we're expending so much of our time with partners seeking to bring about a ceasefire, to get humanitarian aid in at pace, to get the hostages out, and of course to put forward a peace plan that can actually take us to a two-stage solution. And of course I'll talk to all international leaders about that. I would gently say to him that if he hadn't refused the invite to the state banquet, he could be there 2 weeks on Tuesday and speak to President Trump himself. And I'm surprised it's not an act of leadership to pass up that opportunity.
Mr Speaker, I have to disagree with him on that. We are now debating this issue. But here's an issue where I hope he will agree with me. The European Convention on Human Rights is a British creation that protects all our basic rights and freedoms. Rights of children, disabled people, survivors of domestic abuse, victims of horrific crimes, everyone. It protects care home residents from abuse and families from being spied on by councils. But the leader of the Conservative Party and the leader of Reform want to join Russia and Vladimir Putin by withdrawing from the convention. The Liberal Democrats disagree, Mr Speaker, and so do the majority of the British people. So will the Prime Minister categorically rule out withdrawing from the ECHR or suspending it or watering down our rights in any way?
Prime Minister. Mr Speaker, we will not withdraw from the European Convention of Human Rights. We do need to make sure that both the Convention and other instruments are fit for the circumstances we face at the moment, and therefore, of course, we have been, as we made clear, looking at the interpretation of some of those provisions. It would be a profound mistake to pull out of these instruments, because the first thing that would follow is every other country in the world that adheres to these instruments would pull out of all their agreements with this country. That would be catastrophic for dealing with the problem that we're actually dealing with.
Irene Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Scotland has a proud heritage as one of the world's great shipbuilding nations. On behalf of the defence industry workers across Ayrshire and beyond, can I welcome the largest ever export deal for new warships ever secured by the UK? And does the Prime Minister agree that this shows how, under Labour, we can build on our proud past to secure a brighter future for our shipbuilding industry?
Can I thank you for a question? Mr. Speaker, I was very pleased to get the call from the Prime Minister of Norway on Saturday night telling us that the UK had won this contract, beating off competition from the US, from France and from Germany because of the quality of shipbuilding in this country. This is a £10 billion deal, Mr. Speaker, 15 years' worth of shipbuilding, particularly in places like the Clyde. Thousands of skilled jobs in Scotland, and it does show the importance of the defence industrial strategy and the importance of Britain being taken seriously again on the international stage. Mr. Speaker, it comes on top of the record investment in defence that we've already announced earlier this year.
Robin Swan.
Mr. Speaker, I'm joined today in the gallery by the leadership of the Young Farmers Clubs of Ulster, an organisation and young people who are passionate about youth work, passionate about the rural countryside and passionate about the future of farming and agriculture. Agriculture policy has devolved, but the Prime Minister's agriculture inheritance tax is the thing that has them and young farmers across all the country despairing not just for their future, but the future of food security. When will the Prime Minister change course on the farm family inheritance tax, now that he's taking control of tax policy?
Prime Minister. First, can I welcome the Young Farmers Club of Ulster to Parliament and take this opportunity to say to him and to them that we've invested more than £2.7 billion in farming and nature recovery. That's been welcomed. And, of course, we're developing a 25-year farming roadmap to make the sector more profitable. Again, that has been warmly welcomed, and their future will depend on that roadmap. We'll work with them.
Bill Ribeiro-Addy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, the Global Sumud Flotilla, which includes British citizens, set sail for Gaza to break the illegal blockade and deliver much-needed aid. In June, the British boat, the Madeleine, was threatened and its crew detained, but we took no action. Can the Prime Minister say what has been learned from this and what steps are being taken to protect the British citizens on this flotilla?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, she raised a really important issue in relation to the horrifying situation in Gaza, and the Israeli government is preventing urgently needed aid from getting in, and that is why we're now seeing a man-made famine, and that should cause us all to pause and reflect. I have to say, we are working with other countries to get aid in by any practical means, but land routes are the only viable and sustainable means of getting aid into Gaza at the scale that is required, and Israel must lift the restrictions to allow aid agencies to deliver the life-saving supplies that are so desperately needed.
Pete Wishart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the budget date has finally been announced, and once again Scotland is some sort of distant afterthought. A budget date left to the 11th hour because they do not know how to resolve their countless counter-bureaucrats. A budget date that has practically wrecked Scotland's budgetary process, leaving it almost impossible for us to pass a budget before Christmas, leaving great uncertainty in Scotland's public services. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? They couldn't even be bothered to notify the Scottish Government, leaving them to find this out on social media. So can I ask the Prime Minister, how is this reset in relationships working out?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he overlooks the fact that the last budget there was a record settlement for Scotland, £50 billion a year. And he talks about the support. We've just won this Norway frigates contract. That is 15 years of shipbuilding in Scotland. The First Minister of the SNP has said what about that since Sunday? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I know we've got another SNP question in just a moment. Perhaps that will be the opportunity to welcome the deal that we won and the jobs now for Scotland.
Well done, McAvoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, last year my online safety forum of children and young people from every secondary school and college in Darlington found that 71% of our Year 10s and 12s had been contacted by a stranger online. A shocking failure that our Online Safety Act will hopefully prevent going forward. Will he join me on calling on the member for Clacton and all opposed to this vital act to pick a side? Are they with us, parents and child protectors, or are they with the predators harming our children online?
Prime Minister. Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, the honourable member for Clacton is not here representing his constituencies in the House that he was elected to. No, he's flown to America to badmouth and talk down our country. And worse than that, Mr. Speaker, if you can believe it, he's gone there to lobby the Americans to impose sanctions on this country which will harm working people. You cannot get more unpatriotic than that. It's a disgrace. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the Online Safety Act, that protects children from material on suicide, on self-harm and online predators. And Reform say they would scrap it. When their leader was asked, well, what would you replace it with? His answer, there needs to be a tech answer. I don't know what that is. Well, you can't run a country on don't know answers.
Dr. Kieran Mullen.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure, like me, you got to enjoy everything UK hospitality has to offer over the summer, and 15 local pubs received nominations as part of my Community Pub Awards. I visited places like the Bull Inn in Battle, the Castle Inn in Pevensey, the Swan Inn in Darlington, the New Inn in Westfield, and Sigley Working Men's Club. Many of them told me how hard hit they've been by Labour's jobs tax, and UK Hospitality estimates 80,000 jobs have already been lost, and the Beer and Pub Association say a pub a day will close this year. Can the Prime Minister name a single pub landlord that thinks his current Deputy Prime Minister's employment bill is going to help rather than just make things worse?
Prime Minister.
Well, I hope he paced out the visits to all those pubs and didn't do them all in one go. But look, UK Hospitality has welcomed our small business plan, and that obviously applies to pubs. Yes, they have. And the reason is because it permanently lowers the business rates that they pay, and it tackles late payments, something they've been asking for a very, very long time. They talked about fixing this, but they never delivered. We're delivering.
Katrina Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents have endured 4 major fires in recent months across our community, including the devastating destruction of Cumbernault's iconic St Mungo's Church. Yet the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service is consulting on downgrading Cumbernauld Fire Station, increasing response times and putting lives at risk. Can I ask the Prime Minister to make representation to the Scottish Government to not risk lives with cuts to our vital emergency services?
Prime Minister.
Well, I think the whole House is sorry to hear about the awful fires that her constituents have faced, including the destruction of St Mungo's. And I know just how important that church was, Mr. Speaker, to the local community. The Scottish Government have received the largest settlement in the history of devolution. That's £50 billion a year. That should be focused on the issues that matter to her constituency. And I will take this up and make sure that we raise it with the Scottish Government.
Stephen Gaffney.
First of all, I will refer to my comments earlier in the week, since the Prime Minister's research isn't up to scratch. Mr. Speaker, George Reid, who was a former presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament and an MP, passed away over the summer. He was a humanitarian to his very fingertips. He would have abhorred the demonisation of asylum seekers, including those desperate enough to cross the Channel in small boats. Now, figures published by the House of Commons Library shows that those asylum seekers who were forced to cross has increased dramatically after Brexit as a result of leaving the Dublin regulation. So, instead of punching down and joining in with the victim blaming of Reform and the Conservatives, will the Prime Minister reject their isolationism and look to rejoin the Dublin Convention like every other country in Western Europe?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing progressive about people crossing the Channel in small boats. No. Nothing progressive about that at all, and we need to ensure that that stops. On the question of the Dublin Agreement, I agree with him. We had a returns agreement with the whole of Europe. It was ripped up when we left the EU by people who made promises that that wouldn't be the case. We're rebuilding that relationship. We've reset that relationship. We now have a returns agreement with France. We wouldn't need a single relationship with France if we hadn't ripped up the Dublin Agreement.
Richard Berger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're at a very dangerous political moment. Opinion polls warn that for the first time in our country's history, we risk the election of an extremist far-right government. We all have a duty to prevent that. To do so, don't we need to rebuild support through a return to real Labour values, through real action to tackle poverty and inequality, through a wealth tax on the super rich, and through an ethical foreign policy that takes a strong principled stand on war crimes, whoever commits them.
Mr. Speaker, look, we do stand at an important moment. We can have the politics of renewal under this government, or the politics of grievance from Reform, who do not want to fix the problems. They want the grievance to continue because the last thing they want is improvement in the lives of working people in this country, because they feed off the problem and the grievance being there. That's the difference.
Sir Julian Lewis.
Admiral Lord West was head of the Royal Navy, Chief of Defence Intelligence and a Labour Security Minister, and currently sits on the Intelligence and Security Committee. So when he writes in the national press denouncing what he calls the disgraceful decision to hand over ownership of the Chagos archipelago, adding that he does not accept that the move is, quotes, absolutely vital for our defence and intelligence, as the Prime Minister claims, should we rely on his professional judgment or not?
Minister. I have the misfortune to disagree with him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. New mums and dads in my constituency of Lowestoft tell me that one of the things they worry about the most is whether they can afford the childcare they need to be able to go back to work. That's why it's great parents will be able to save up to £7,500 a year on nursery fees thanks to this Labour government. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that investing in childcare is not only important for tackling the cost of living crisis, but also helps to remove barriers to deciding to have children in the first place?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank her for raising this, and I was very proud on Monday to make the announcement about childcare. As she rightly says, it saves not just on average £7,500 for families in a cost of living crisis, but also, crucially, this is from 9 months, Mr. Speaker, to 4 years. We know that under the last government, there's this disparity at age 4 between children arriving at reception, some barely out of nappies, others quite articulate. That locks in inequality for life. I'm really pleased that this measure that we've now taken on Monday unlocks that and makes sure every single child aged 4 gets to the starting line in reception with a fair chance of going as far as their talents will take them.
Ellie Challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Conservative Party deludes itself with the myth of endless fossil fuels, the rest of us know just how ridiculous and reckless that is. Extracting more oil and gas from the declining North Sea will do nothing to protect energy security or jobs. Now, the Prime Minister himself has stated that climate action is at the heart of his government's mission for the protection and prosperity of Britain and the world. So with a decision finally looming on the Rosebank oil field, will the Prime Minister prove his words mean something and finally put an end to this climate-wrecking project?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I did notice that the Leader of the Opposition went to Scotland, I think, this week to announce that if she ever became Prime Minister, which is extremely unlikely, that she would pull down £50 billion of investment in renewables in Scotland. This is good, secure jobs of the future. Absolutely reckless behaviour. They haven't learned anything. But, I mean, the Greens, of course, have got a new leader, unfortunately for her. And we can now see what they really stand for. Withdrawal from NATO at a moment like this, totally unfunded spending that would blow up the economy. They would block all planning proposals. And they've now got a leader who's made, to say the least, some very strange comments about women. There is only one party delivering fairness and tackling the climate crisis, and that's the Labour Party.
Alex Selby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, in September 21, you met ex-Arsenal player Michael Thomas in Portcullis House alongside other former footballers of the V11 when I hosted them in Parliament. Last night, the BBC broadcast the V11 documentary exposing the fraud perpetrated against them and the financial abuse they have suffered within the footballing system. They have all suffered terrible financial loss, but HMRC are still chasing them for taxes from funds that were defrauded from them. Prime Minister, will you meet Michael Thomas, and other players with me to see how we can protect victims of fraud and instead go after the perpetrators of fraud?
Prime Minister.
I will, and I have met Michael Thomas a number of times. Of course, he's got a special place in my heart, having scored that winning goal at Anfield when we won the league, although the less said about winning at Anfield at the moment, probably the better. But the serious point is that these are sporting heroes who brought us so much joy, and they should have proper support from their sporting bodies on both health and welfare. And Michael Thomas and others running a really important campaign to bring this to our attention. We do need a trusted system that takes the well-being of our sports people seriously, particularly those in vulnerable positions. And I know the Minister for Sport is in contact with the campaigners on this issue.
Ollie Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a recent visit to the UK Space Agency based in my Oxfordshire constituency, I learnt of the huge value created by our space sector, generating more than £7 for every £1 invested. Given his government's decision to scrap the UKSA as an executive agency, will the Prime Minister guarantee its international credibility, its operational independence and its budgets? And will he visit Harwell campus to hear what our brilliant space companies need from government?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for raising this important issue and reassure him that we do want to keep the huge expertise and knowledge of the UK Space Agency staff, including those that are working in his constituency. We have already secured almost £300 million in contracts from the European Space Agency, and this will cut costs, reducing duplication, so we can really focus on growing this important sector.
Mr. Speaker. Since the start of the full-scale invasion into Ukraine, Russia has stolen, abducted and indoctrinated at least 19,546 children.
Awful.
It's one of the most heinous crimes of this war. Can I warmly welcome this morning's announcement of an additional package of sanctions on those perpetrating these crimes? And can the Prime Minister assure the House that he will do everything possible to return these children to their homes?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I acknowledge her campaigning on this really important issue? Russia's policy of forced deportations, indoctrination of Ukrainian children is despicable, and anybody who's heard the stories or seen the pictures cannot be other than profoundly moved by it. We have taken firm action. Mr. Speaker, this was one of the issues that we discussed, as it happens, 2 weeks ago in Washington when I went over with other leaders to ensure that we are all putting maximum pressure. But this, amongst the very many horrors of the Ukraine conflict, this is right up there as one of the absolute worst.
Jack Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many, I was deeply concerned that a police force deemed it necessary to take 5 armed officers to arrest a comedy writer from a flight. Some may have found Mr. Linehan's comments offensive, but that isn't the point. If you don't support speech you don't like, you don't support free speech. Will the Prime Minister commit to reviewing our speech laws to ensure the legitimate free expression is protected? And will he condemn the culture within the public sector which prioritises this dangerous and perverse nonsense?
Well, I thank you for raising this. You will have seen that the Commissioner has put out a statement in relation to the particular case this morning. I've been clear throughout, we must ensure the police focus on the most serious issues and the issues that matter most to our constituencies and all communities. And that includes tackling issues like antisocial behaviour, knife crime and violence. And we have a long history of free speech in this country. I'm very proud of that and I will always defend it.
Week where the Prime Minister has worked tirelessly to place the Clydeside, Glasgow, Govan at the epicentre of Type 26 shipbuilding, is he perplexed, as I am, at the radio silence from the SNP and the contempt the SNP continues to show for the defence sector? And does he agree with me that that contempt is a contempt for jobs, it's a contempt for growth, and it's an 18-year-long contempt for Scotland?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am perplexed that the First Minister has not welcomed this. This is a massive deal for Scotland. It's 15 years of shipbuilding. I would have expected the First Minister to be holding a press conference to celebrate what we've done in relation to this deal. Those 15 years of shipbuilding, Mr. Speaker, are extremely important to Clyde and very other industries, and they are a reflection of the professionalism and dedication of workers in Scotland that they've shown over many, many years. And I would urge the First Minister to come forward and welcome this deal.
Sir John Hayes, final question.
I know you will agree, Mr. Speaker, that flags and banners in bringing national pride nourish individuals' sense of worth and nurture our shared sense of belonging. So will the Prime Minister take steps to ensure that across every part of our kingdom, alongside the Cross of St George in England, St Patrick in Wales, St Andrew in Scotland and the Red Dragon in Wales, that our flag is flown on every government and public building, hospitals, schools, police stations, railway stations? For every Briton deserves the chance to see a forest of flagpoles and the flutter of the Union Jack.
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him? And I share his pride in our country's flag. It represents our history, our heritage and our values. And that's why we display it. And I was the Labour leader that put the Union Jack on the membership card for the Labour Party. I'm very proud to do so. It belongs to all of us. We should be proud of it and value it.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Let the front benches turn up.